Imagine, if you will, the turn of the 20th century. The world was on the brink of a new era, and change was in the air. In the far-off archipelago of the Philippines, after more than 3 centuries under Spanish rule, another foreign power was taking the helm. This was the dawn of the American regime, a period that would forever shape the landscape of Philippine education. The year was 1898. With the Treaty of Paris, Spain ceded the Philippines to the United States. The stars and stripes unfurled across the islands, and the American era in Philippine history began. Early on, the new rulers recognized the power of education. It was in the year 1900 when the first American teachers, known as Thomasites, arrived on the shores of Manila. Their mission? To spread the English language and American ideals. They established the public school system, which was free and accessible to all, a stark contrast to the elitist education system of the Spanish era. Throughout the first decade of the 20th century, the focus was on basic literacy. The curriculum was simple: reading, writing, arithmetic, and a healthy dose of American history and culture. The goal was not just to teach, but to assimilate, to mold the Filipinos into little Americans. As the years rolled on, the American educational system evolved. By the 1920s, the focus had shifted to vocational and practical skills. Agriculture, carpentry, domestic science. These were the new buzzwords in education. The Americans believed that such skills would better equip the Filipinos for life in a developing nation. By the 1930s, the winds of change were blowing again. This time, it was the Filipinos who took the reins of their education. They advocated for a curriculum that was more in tune with their needs and aspirations. Philippine history, character education, and the local language were given more emphasis. This was the beginning of a more nationalistic approach to education, a trend that would continue until the end of the American regime. The end of World War II in 1945 marked the end of the American era. The Philippines gained full independence on July 4th, 1946. The American flag was lowered for the last time, but its imprint on Philippine education was indelible. To recap, the American regime in the Philippines brought about significant changes in education. It introduced a public school system that was free and accessible to all. It initially focused on basic literacy and Americanization, then shifted to practical and vocational skills in the 1920s. The Filipinos eventually took control of their education, advocating for a more nationalistic curriculum in the 1930s. Indeed, the American regime was a pivotal period in Philippine education. Its influence is still felt today, in the classrooms and textbooks, in the minds and hearts of Filipino students. And while the stars and stripes no longer fly over the archipelago, the legacy of the American era in Philippine education lives on.